Well, we've got the full schedule for the Eagles, and it just gets better and better with the critics. And in this video, I'll break down everything you need to know about the Birds' schedule, as well as predict exactly what kind of record they'll end with. Plus, while it might not be too many losses, Howie Roseman did just lose another executive to the Raiders. So let's talk about that, what it means for them moving forward, and a couple other moves they made recently. But first, let's run it. What's up, guys? Getting this one out a little bit later than I would have liked, but the internet was out, so it made things a little bit difficult. Although on the topic of difficulty, as you're well aware by now, the Eagles have one of the toughest schedules in the league.
It's difficult.
Oh, it's difficult.
Yes, it is, but just how difficult, you may ask? Well, consider this. Philly will be facing the toughest teams from last season, being that they have a first-place schedule, and 11 of the Eagles' 17 games are against playoff teams from last year. Plus, when it comes to their away schedule, the Birds might have the toughest challenge there, with all 6 of the road games outside of the division against playoff teams from last year. By the way, they also have 6 primetime games, and it probably goes without saying, but they'll be getting everyone's best shot. As well as an interesting note that Anthony DiBona shared, the Eagles never play back-to-back home games this upcoming season.
It's over. We are screwed.
Alright, I get it that most of us are not out on that extreme, but there are some people that I've seen that are freaking out about this schedule. Because sure, it's difficult and maybe not the most ideal. However, as John Clark alluded to, it's key that the Eagles will get extra rest going into 5 of those 6 tough road games. Since, ultimately it really just comes down to health and availability. In particular for Jalen Hurts and A.J. Brown, because FYI, the Birds were 15-0 last season in games that they both started and finished. So again, like we've seen and like they've shown, if the offense is there, the defense will lock down people, and we have a very good shot. Again, they have to show up and prove it, but still, we have a very good shot to run this thing back.
So you're telling me there's a chance?
I know hindsight's 20/20, but there's really no reason to get worked up about how good or bad you think this schedule is. I mean, let's remember that many, myself included, were upset with a Week 5 bye week on last season's schedule. Although as we saw and experienced, that early bye could not have been more perfectly timed, with the 2-2 squad being able to reset and then rattle off 16 wins over their next 17 games. So yeah, maybe we got carried away.
That was an overreaction.
Just trying to offer a little perspective on why it's not always things being as they seem, and we don't need to get delusional. Granted, to be expected, the Dallas Cowboys are in the camp of delusion after Micah Parsons and Ceedee Lamb tried clowning Quinyon Mitchell.
That Quinyon don't last over here, man. That dead.
What is that?
That's what they call Quinyon Mitchell.
What?
You guys are right here.
They said Guantanamo Bay. That's where they said you headed.
Wow.
I said, they crazy.
Y'all ever seen Prison Break?
Stop the cap.
Ever seen Prison Break?
My captain came.
They said, now they drag. I think Eagles fans are here.
I don't care. Who's in here?
They talking about you going to Guantanamo Bay. Guantanamo Bay.
All right, so
I ain't never been locked down on any island.
Interesting. Ceedee thinks he's never been locked down. Yet, hang on, let's go back and think about this one. In the lone matchup against Q, Lamb only put up 6 catches on 10 targets for 21 yards. And when you break it down further, Mitchell actually only allowed 1 of those catches on him for 5 yards. Of course, to be fair, that was the game where Lamb had Cooper Rush and Trey Lance calling plays that left little to the imagination.
Hey, are you Dirty Mike and the boys?
Look, either way, you've seen it, I've seen it. The Dallas faithful are back on the bandwagon because they want to be Philly so bad. Heck, they took nearly every one of the Eagles' top 30 visits in the draft, and now they're chirping about ruining the home opener on September 4th. Which, for the record, no game currently is in more demand than that NFL opener, as the average ticket price is now over $1,700. So, of course, as we do on this channel, it's time to give 2 of those tickets away. So listen up, all you gotta do to be entered is drop a like on this video and then go down to the comments section and let me know what your record prediction is for the Eagles this season. Because once you do that, then I'll spin for the winner on my next Tuesday night live stream that will also get announced in an upcoming video. As always, I probably don't even have to say this, but this will not be the final giveaway that we do like this. After all, I gave away tickets to every game last season, and this thing's only getting bigger. So make sure you're subscribed so that you don't miss out. Although surprisingly, there's still nearly 45% of you who watch the show regularly and haven't hit that sub button, which, considering it's free, is kind of crazy to not take a chance at scoring some free tickets to watch the Birds play. Anyway, while you're letting me know your record prediction and why, I figured I'd take a stab at it myself, as well as a few interesting nuggets to keep in mind for each matchup. So here we go. Week 1, Thursday Night Football, Eagles versus Cowboys, and the Birds already have plenty of bulletin board material with rookie guard Tyler Booker calling out Jalen Carter. Plus the bit from Micah Parsons and Ceedee Lamb now added to the mix. And I'm sorry, but they're just asking for it. Plus, Nick Sirianni is 4-0 in season openers, and the Super Bowl banners will be unveiled right in front of Jerry Jones. There's just no way I see the Birds losing. 1-0. All right, next is a Week 2 trip to Kansas City. And I know what some are saying. The Chiefs have won 20 of 25 games at Arrowhead and will be looking for some revenge of what happened in New Orleans. Yet honestly, the Eagles are just the better team, and they'll be coming off extra time to prep. So call me crazy, but even after the blowout in the Super Bowl, I don't think that Philly underestimates Kansas City and ends up winning the game going to 2-0. After that, Week 3 is a home game against the Los Angeles Rams. Now sure, LA played the Birds incredibly close in their second matchup. Jared Verse can't stand Philly, but the personnel is not much different, and Vic Fangio absolutely owns Sean McVay. So once again, give me the Eagles starting out 3-0. Okay, here's where I have the first potential hiccup for the Birds. Because for the second year in a row, the NFL scheduled a Week 4 matchup in Tampa for Philly. Now on one hand, maybe the guys can get motivated and avenge the blowout from last season. Yet at the same time, if the weather is scorching like the last meeting, it could be really difficult. Plus, I don't have to even say it, but Todd Bowles does seem to have Jalen's number. So, unfortunately, Eagles fall to 3-1. What do you think about the record prediction so far? Any difference on yours? Let me know in the comments. I mean, let's be honest, even if you disagree, at least it's not as idiotic as some of the national critics and pundits.
This is a real thing. There's a real possibility that the
Don't
Eagles
say nothing wild now. Don't say nothing wild.
There's a real
Jay.
possibility the Eagles could start 1-3.
At KC. That's tough. I'm going to give him an L right there, bro. Another
Devontae
L.
Adams.
The Philadelphia Eagles.
1-3.
I'm sorry, barring injuries, that's just crazy talk with the talent and focus we have on this roster. Which is why after losing to the Bucs, the Birds will bounce back and beat the Broncos in Philly to move to 4-1. Of course, being at home then brings up a Thursday night football trip to New York with the Giants. But come on, even with a pretty solid draft, the G-men aren't striking fear in the hearts of anyone yet. Eagles move to 5-1. Now, after that, Week 7 brings up what I think will be a really competitive game in the Minnesota Vikings. Still, despite Minnesota going 8-1 last season at home, I just don't see enough talent for them to keep up with Philly, who will be coming off extra rest. Therefore, that makes us 7-1 at that point. Wait, sorry, there is the Giants in Week 8, but, I went ahead and just gave it to us. It's kind of a foregone conclusion, so, 7-1 after beating the Giants in Week 8. Like we're talking about a New York team that hasn't won in Philly since 2013. So with their roster and this year, you know what their chances are of reversing the curse.
0. There is a 0% chance.
All right, look, bye week right in the middle, Birds at 7-1. I think we're feeling really good if that's the outcome at that point, especially since it gives the fellas some much-needed rest to make that final push. Now, personally, with Week 10 featuring a visit to Lambeau Field and all the crying the Packers have done to ban the Tush push, I gotta see that one in person. Because it wouldn't be unlike Sirianni to call consecutive brotherly shoves just to rub salt in the wound, that is, assuming that the play is still legal to run. But also, I will say, after hearing Zach Berman's input of it being Monday night at Lambeau, and that if you could attend any game, try to go to this one, well, yeah.
Okay, you sold me.
I don't know, coming off a bye week and in prime time, I think the Birds get it done 8-1. Which means next up, the Lions come to Philly for a Sunday night football contest. Granted, that also equals short rest before playing a tough and physical Dan Campbell team. Yet for those thinking Detroit comes in and steals one against the Eagles, I think you're significantly underplaying the fact that the Lions lost both coordinators on both sides of the ball. And that's not to mention Amon-Ra St. Brown putting it out publicly that had Washington not upset them, the Birds wouldn't have been the team representing the NFC in the Super Bowl. However, as if that's not crazy enough, the Lions are offering travel packages for fans to take over the link. And newsflash for them, the Commanders tried to do that as well in the NFC Championship, except all it amounted to was us losing the beloved Hard Rock to some commies. Long story short, I'm taking the Birds over to Detroit to move to 9-1. Now, unfortunately, Week 12 will be the Cowboys' Super Bowl, and let's be honest, no matter what the quality has been, these sides have split the season series 9 of the past 12 seasons. So, as much as it pains me to do it, I will give Dallas the win and drop Philly to 9-2.
Don't ever take sides with anyone against the family again.
I'm sorry, I know I'm going to catch a whole lot of heat for that one, but I'm trying to predict it as realistically as possible as I can. Either way, the good news is that next up, I see the Birds rattling off a Black Friday home win against the Bears, followed by beating the Chargers in LA on Monday night, and then returning back home to dismantle the Raiders in front of Chip Kelly. By the way, that means that we're 12-2 with 3 games remaining in Week 16. Where the Eagles play at the Commanders, and not gonna lie, but I'm with those suggesting Jaden Daniels could suffer a slight bit of regression. Plus, the Commies added a few older players, and it's hard to say if they won't be in regression mode themselves this season. Ultimately, it comes down to this. If the Eagles are healthy, then Washington doesn't stand a chance to stay with Philly, so I will take the Eagles to win and basically at that point wrap up the division. But at 13-2 in late December in a freezing cold game in Buffalo, I do have them losing to Josh Allen and the Bills. followed by another loss to the Commanders in the final week since they'll be resting starters to finish with a 13-4 overall record and the number 1 seed in the NFC. Who knows, maybe that's too many losses, but you guys let me know what you think about that in the comments. However, for those keeping record, the Birds did officially announce their preseason schedule as well, with Game 1 being a home game on August 7th against the Cincinnati Bengals, Game 2 being another home game against the Cleveland Browns on August 16th, and then the final one being a road game against the Jets on August 22nd. Also, I did mention I keep everyone posted about the exciting Mike's podcast with Cooper DeJean and Reed Blankenship, and the first episode was pretty legit. FYI, they shared that the ring ceremony for the Eagles is going to be on June 6th. So again, make sure to go and subscribe so that you're not missing out on some great recording, but also breaking news that they occasionally will share. Of course, in light of breaking news, Jordan Schultz shared that the Eagles lost Senior Director of Scouting Brandon Hunt to the Las Vegas Raiders. And yes, for those counting, that is now the second executive the Raiders have taken, with the first one being Anthony Patch. But don't worry, we are going to be fine. Yet with the most recent changes, schedule updates, and Eagles news, I had Eagles writer Anthony DiBona on to break down exactly what all it means.
Walk us through Brandon Hunt, his role, impact there. Is it a super big hit for Philly? Thoughts on that side?
So Brandon Hunt, it's not like he's a guy that's been in Philadelphia for 20 years or so, like some other guys have that have left in recent years, but he joined the team in 2022 as the director of scouting. He served that role in 2022 and 2023 before being promoted to senior director of scouting before this past season. So that is obviously a little bit higher up on the front office food chain, if you want to say, in Philadelphia. So it's a notable loss. But I mean, if you look at in recent years, Howie Roseman has he talks about like the quarterback factory and things like that, but Philadelphia has kind of become a front office factory because he constantly loses executives to either GM jobs or assistant GM jobs or even to college GM jobs, where like different spots. I mean, if you look at recent years, Jake Rosenberg was like the cap guru, regarded as the cap guru in Philadelphia. He departed last offseason. Then guys like Ian Cunningham, Brandon Brown left for the Giants, Andy Weidel, obviously Joe Douglas and Andrew Berry got GM jobs. So this is not like an unseen thing for Howie Roseman. He's kind of became prepared for this over the recent years because, like I said, Philadelphia has just had so much success under his tenure that teams are looking at Philadelphia like, hey, we need to grab some of those guys and bring them to our building. So obviously now there's a little bit of a Philadelphia connection in Vegas with John Spytek there, but now he's also poached another guy who we'll get into. But I think the Eagles are kind of in a good situation as far as their front office goes. They have people that are like able to step in for these departures. They're kind of thinking years ahead, bringing people up the pipeline. So I think they'll be fine.
You mentioned that too. People in the pipeline that they have to kind of replace these, and I believe you had maybe a couple potential names that they could consider, right?
So for Brandon Hunt's departure in particular, Amina Solomon is somebody that stands out. She's kind of worked her way up the ranks in Philadelphia. She currently serves as multiple roles as far as the director of player personnel and a pro scout. And if you look at Brandon Hunt's background, when he came up with the Steelers, he was there for almost 15, 16 years. He was a pro scout, and that's kind of the background that he had. So if they're looking for somebody with that background, Solomon certainly fits that mold. And like I said, she's been brought up through the ranks in Philadelphia. So that seems like a seamless transition for her and kind of a well-earned promotion for her as well. And then if you look at a guy like Anthony Patch, who also went to Las Vegas, he served as their senior director of college scouting. And now if they lose him, he was in Philadelphia for much longer than Brandon Hunt. He was there for 22 years. So that's a little bit of a bigger loss for Philadelphia in regards to that personal connection to Howie Roseman. But a guy like Ryan Myers, who's their current assistant director of college scouting, that obviously seems like the next step up for him, right? So I feel like they have these people in line already. Howie Roseman's constantly adding people from the outside as well to fill these roles. So I think they'll be just fine moving forward.
As you say, it's we've seen people, and we wish them the best of luck as long as they're not playing the Eagles. So, week, whatever it is, 15, 14, whenever the Raiders and Chip Kelly come to town, no wishes there for them to perform. But otherwise, good luck to you. Sometimes they can perform okay, not necessarily as much whenever they're in Philly. And the main thing is having Howie Roseman. But you do mention a guy like Anthony Patch. He was here. He was present whenever a guy like Dallas Goedert was drafted and selected by the Eagles because he's been here for so long. And the reason I bring up Dallas Goedert is congratulations again to Leanwood Liddy. I think I'm saying that correctly, but Leanwood Liddy won the signed rookie card, the Dallas Goedert rookie card that you yourself, sir, are giving away. So Leanwood Liddy, we just got to hear from you. Email thephillyspecialshow@gmail.com or just comment in the video here, one of the socials, hit us up, DM, anything. We need to hear from you. before the Tuesday night live stream. If we do not, then, we'll have to spin and give it away to somebody else. But congratulations to you. We have not otherwise. So for everyone else, stay tuned. Also, a quick shout out to the Eagles Autism Foundation. You see the QR code on your screen. Feel free to scan that. Options there to donate, to support a tremendous cause. Anthony and I are both going to be there for the Eagles Autism Challenge on Saturday, depending on when you're watching this video. It may be before, it could be after. If you check it out after the fact, it's not too late to donate. You can donate all the way through the end of the month. So just to make that known, it doesn't have to be before the event itself. But if you happen to see two guys out there that look like us, it's probably us. The odds are that we've attended that event. So I'm looking forward to it. I know it's both of our first time to attend the Eagles Autism Challenge, but should be a really good time.
Yeah, and I'm really excited for it. I mean, I've mentioned it in previous streams and videos. My niece, my goddaughter Veronica, she's autistic, so I understand, have kind of personal connection. I don't want to get too emotional or disclose too much information, but I know what my brother John has to deal with in terms of caring for her and kind of bringing attention to autism and educating people about it and getting programs for these kids and all these people that have autism and really need the help that they deserve. I love what the Eagles are doing, and it means a lot to me. So I'm just happy that we're able to kind of raise money for this cause. And obviously your great viewers can help us there, but it's just a great cause. I'm excited to finally participate in the event.
Yeah. Blessing just to be a part, like you say, just to play an impact or play a role, and the incredible positive impact that they have on the community. So if you can, like I say, scan the QR code, donate. If not, just share with anyone, family, friends, members, and anything like that. But speaking of positives and moving to the Eagles' schedule, because that was also announced, we'll get into everything here. We're going to break down the full schedule because I'm sure you've seen it. I've had lots of comments, criticism, some people freaking out, maybe a small minority, but some people freaking out about it. Some people concerned, others going, hey, not too bad, and all over the place. Let's start with positives on the schedule, maybe some areas that you see of the best positives on that.
So the first thing that stands out to me, because if you look back at last year when that schedule came out, the first thing that everybody said was like, oh my God, they have a bye week in week 5. That's terrible. Like, why would you want a bye week that early? And sure enough, fast forward. Yes. And I mean, I said it myself, but then it turned out to that was literally the turning point of the season, right? They said that after that moment, Cooper DeJean was inserted as the starting slot cornerback. After Jalen Hurts started playing a little bit more turnover-free football. It was just literally the turning point for both offense and defense, especially the defense. I mean, they just played at a different level after that moment. So, but I mean, if you look at this year's schedule, that week 9 bye week is great too, because it kind of falls almost right in the middle of the season. I mean, now with 17 games, you can't have 8 and 8, but they go through the first 8 weeks of the game. I mean, first games of this 8 games of the season. Then they have week 9 off. Then they play 7 games or 8 games after that, 9 games after that. So, I mean, they have a great midpoint bye week, which is what you would kind of look for. If you look at the NBA season, how they have their all-star break in the middle of the season, it's kind of gives them a break similar to that. But another positive is they have extended rest when they don't have a bye week, excuse me, for many other weeks. I mean, before they play the Chiefs, the Vikings, the Chargers, and the Bills, they have more than their usual week of rest that they would have. I mean, granted, that's because they either play Thursday night, Friday night, or a Saturday. There's some interesting things there, which you can say that are kind of negatives in a way because they have shorter weeks of preparation there, but they're not doing a ton of traveling either. I believe they were ranked in the bottom 10 as far as miles traveled next season, so that's kind of a good thing as well. So there's a lot of different things. And then the last thing I would note as far as a positive is that they host both the Rams and the Raiders at home at 1 p.m. So you're getting those West Coast teams flying across the country, playing at what would essentially be 10 a.m. for them. That usually plays a big role and will have a big impact. So those are the 3 positives that I would look at for the Eagles schedule.
Man, that's the biggest one for me. People of the channel know that I'm not a morning person, but my gosh, if I do anything at 10 a.m., certainly a physical activity, physical exertion at 10 a.m. body clock wise, yeah, just forget about it. That's not happening. So that's a good point that you bring. I like that. It's a first place schedule, so there's going to be difficulty. You look at it face value and say, yeah, there's a lot of teams. There's a lot of playoff teams on there. There's a lot of great challenges on this, but there's also usually at least 1, 2, 3 teams that you're like, oh, that was a really tough team the previous year. And then all of a sudden something happens, whether it's an injury or they just kind of have some regression, whatever the case may be, and they're not as challenging as it was. Now, it can also be the reverse of that. And you say a team that should be a cakewalk or an easy win, all of a sudden is one of those better teams. But I'm like, you go through the schedule there, Personally, I'm thinking that you can have a start of 3-1. I don't know about the Tampa game only because it's just very odd to me that they're going to play a week 4 game again in Tampa, and we had 110 degrees and the humidity was insane, and we all saw how terrible that was. But as you mentioned, they hit the bye week and regrouped and everything was there. All good to go. But if they can get started strong and have 3-1, something like that, then you got the Broncos, the Giants a couple times. Those are, I'm going to say automatic, but just about as automatic as they come. And you kind of keep this thing rolling, and all of a sudden, they could be in a better spot. But like you say, there's stories on both sides. Any negatives or some just not as great areas that you see with the schedule?
So the two things, I personally don't have much of a problem with the schedule. I think I saw a lot of people when I tweeted about it, how people were just like, wait, they're playing on the road at the Chiefs and they're playing at the Bills. Like, this stuff was known for a while. And I think just people maybe weren't paying close attention because the only thing that we kind of learned this week was that when those games were going to be played, we already knew who they were going to be playing and whether they were home or away games. That was already known. So
I did see that. It was
like the order and so that was a little
fascinating. I saw the same thing, and I'm like, I feel like it's been mentioned quite a bit, and we've talked about it on a number of shows. But there's a lot of people that I was seeing online that are like, "Oh my gosh, we're playing these teams here." And again, to your point, you're like, "Yeah, we already knew if it was going to be home or away and which team it was." But some people you forget or you just don't think about it, I suppose.
Yeah, but also to your point, before I jump into the negatives, you have to realize that it's not a guarantee that the Commanders are going to be as good as they were. It's not a guarantee that the Vikings are going to be as good as they were, or the Packers are going to be, or the line. There's going to be injuries, like you mentioned. There's going to be teams that just fall off because I remember last year, everybody thought the Texans were going to win 13 or 14 games because they made a playoff push the previous year, and they kind of they still made the playoffs and they made a wild card push or whatever it was, but they weren't the team that everybody, they didn't take the step forward that everybody thought they were going to be. So clearly the NFL thinks that the Commanders are going to do so, and I think that's one of the negatives that I listed is that the Eagles play both the Commanders and the Giants in 2 out of 3 weeks in a row. So, that's very odd. I feel like they could have just flipped one of those games around, made the Commanders a little bit early in the season and flipped one of those Giants games to later. But clearly they're banking on the Eagles and the Commanders in the running for the NFC East, and those 2 games and the final 3 weeks really coming down to deciding the division. But a lot of the time when they do that, either one of those teams is out of it or one of those teams is already clinched and kind of makes it meaningless. So I think it would have been better to kind of scatter those games around. But my only other negative is just that they don't have any back-to-back home games, which is kind of disappointing to see because last year I think they had at least 2 instances, maybe 3 instances of back-to-back home games, and this year they don't have any. But on the flip side, they only have 2 instances of back-to-back road games. So there is just a lot of home, away, home, away, home, away. They don't have any international games. So, overall, I think obviously outside of the caliber of the opponents that they play and they have to play the NFC North and the AFC West. Those are tough teams, obviously, but I don't think the scheduling really did them as dirty as people make it out to be.
I agree. I'm with you on the fact of could have thrown in the Giants in one of those Commanders game. I don't like it for anyone. So, truth be told, look, the Giants and then I forget, the Giants play a team and the Giants again. I don't like it regardless because it's you just saw it. You just played them.
Yeah.
2 of 3 weeks. So the familiarity, I don't know. And I know the NBA has schedules like that. NHL, all pro sports have. It just, to me, I don't get it. I don't like it. I don't appreciate it. But we'll see. Is it one of those that matters? Personally, I'll just say this too before we kind of move on for the games that you're most looking forward to, and maybe this hits on it. But personally, I do think I'm in the camp of Commanders taking a slight step back or maybe a slight regression, if you will. And I could very much see that where it's okay, hey, if the Eagles win the first matchup in week 16, then week 18 is meaningless. Week 17 could even be meaningless against the Bills. They could have it locked up by that point even, but certainly for the final week against week 18 against the Commanders, I don't know if it'll necessarily be as much of a deciding factor as the NFL setting the schedule maybe hopes that it will.
Yeah, and I think people are kind of discrediting both the Cowboys and the Giants. I'm not saying that either one of those teams are going to be pushing for what the Commanders did last season, but I think the NFC East as a whole got significantly better this year. So I wouldn't be so quick to just say that the Commanders are going to do what they did last year once again, because anything about Cliff Kingsbury's history kind of shows that he does really well in that first year, and then once teams kind of get a hold of what he can do, how he uses certain players, then obviously things change. So I mean, now you're giving all these defensive coordinators, especially a guy like Vic Fangio, time to like kind of figure out and plot and scheme for what to do for Jaden Daniels and defend these other guys. I think the Eagles are in good shape, and I know they're going to be tested and it's going to be tough some of these games, but at the same time, if you want to really see how good your team is, you want to beat the best of the best. You don't want to go through and play against the AFC South or against whatever bum division, like the NFC South, where like really only the Buccaneers will give you trouble. Like it's better to get tested during the season and really prepare for the playoffs. So as long as the Eagles stay healthy, I think they'll be just fine.
I mean, you're right on that, because even last year when they played Baltimore in Baltimore, that was one of those games for me where I was like, I probably have it for a loss. I think it'd be close, but I probably have us losing in Baltimore. But, the Cooper DeJean, the tackle on Derrick Henry, that's the big highlight, the moment that stands out for everybody. But they showed something there. They showed the grit and toughness. It wasn't pretty. The numbers were not great for that game, but they did what they needed to win, and it was kind of a more the score at the end maybe doesn't suggest it, but watching the game and seeing it, more of a dominating fashion of just kind of controlling from start to finish. So, you play those teams, you start getting semblances or realizing what a team is going to be as you go along, especially you start playing some of the teams that you're like, oh, hey, they're definitely going to be a playoff contender. And, when you start shutting them out, or you do really well, or you see the season, we think all the way back to Joe Burrow, the season that he was having, continued to have, yet Philly just completely eliminated him. They're like, well, hey, now, okay, after the bye week, we do have some things together. It's not just like, oh, yeah, you barely beat the Browns. We can relax a little bit because you took care of at least an offensive weapon in Joe Burrow and didn't make him look near as good. So then you kind of see that, and it continues along. But I'm excited. There's tons of opportunities to prove themselves. We can definitely say that.
And then it's funny, like even going back to 2023, I know people are trying to use the Men in Black thing and kind of forget that season even happened. But like, if you look at that, remember, like everybody was like, oh, that gauntlet of like Dolphins, Chiefs, Bills, like everybody was like, oh, that stretch is going to like either make or break you. And they actually played pretty well through that stretch. And then they lose to the Cardinals, and you're like, wait, huh? That was what everybody drew up as like a W, right? So
that was for sure.
You can't really look ahead so much and say like this team is going to be this, because even last season, like, how well did the Panthers play the Eagles? Where it was just like if Xavier Legette catches that ball at the end, they lose to the Panthers. It's just like, I mean, more than likely they lose to the Panthers. So the fact you can't really write any of these teams off, just like it's easy to say this is a definite win, this is a likely loss, things like that. But so much can change between now and then that it's really hard to predict. It's all just a guessing game, but obviously it's fun to kind of project things, and I'm sure we'll get into that. But it's really like nobody knows at this point, and nobody even knows when September comes around.
Nope. But that's the fun of it, because it's all the hypotheticals. We're in the lull of the offseason. There's not a whole lot to talk about, so we can do hypotheticals and speculate. I do appreciate the doubters and critics, though, because we know what it means for Jalen Hurts and others who see that bulletin board material. And for some, I've gotten comments on this. There's been quite a few of Cowboys fans, interestingly enough, that jumped into the videos and streams recently, being like, oh, bro, like, you got to stop this. They don't actually look into this stuff. It doesn't mean anything. Like, to some people it doesn't, but I think we've seen enough, especially from the playoff run last year, of they're watching. They see whatever it takes. It may be maniacal. It may be a little bit of a psychopath, but like, if there's anything they can take and exaggerate it just a little bit to get them to have a little bit more to play over the edge and take something personal, we've seen it. And Lane Johnson, the Jared Verse thing that he did, comedy afterward, the best verse of all, and EAGLE, like trolling afterward, like, okay, he saw it. He was waiting to be able to do that after the game. Jalen Carter, same deal. He's been talk with Jared Verse afterwards. So I love the bulletin board material. Eagles, Cowboys, the opener, Tyler Booker. I know that he didn't like full on call out Jalen Carter, but you don't have to say, let's just put this, if you get asked who are you most looking forward to playing in the NFL, you could just say, you could keep it real broad. You could be like, oh, a lot of competition, just looking forward to getting better every day. You don't have to point out answer, right? You don't have to point out your top bitter rival and one of the best players in the NFL, Jalen Carter, especially because immediately, whether Jalen Carter saw it or not, he will see it before the game. And I'm just, it's going to be a living hell for Tyler Booker, which we love. This is greatness for us. But on that notion, which game are you, it may be set up here, but which game are you most looking forward to within the schedule?
So it's not the Cowboys, but it is going to be somebody that I tweeted about actually recently. I said that they were kind of an adopted division rival for the Eagles, and that's going to be Week 4 against the Buccaneers. I mean, it's kind of been the team that has gotten the better of the Eagles in recent years. It's the only team that's beaten the Eagles twice in the last 2 seasons. So it's kind of crazy to think about, considering that they obviously play the division rivals twice every season. So the Buccaneers just seem to be the team that the Eagles can't really get over the hump again. So I think it's going to be a good test, especially like you said, it's in that same exact spot in Week 4 that they played in last year and kind of got embarrassed before turning their whole season around. So maybe, I mean, hopefully they win this time around, but it could be a good test for them early in the season as well. And then I do have another one that I want to mention, and that's going to be Week 11 against the Lions, because it's the Eagles played them back in 2022, which is kind of before they became like the NFL's darling and really became like a legitimate powerhouse and viewed as one of the better teams in the NFC. And there's been a lot of banter from those that have played on the Lions or still play on the Lions that say like the Eagles don't want to see us, blah, blah, blah. But obviously they couldn't even get past the Commanders. So it's going to be really, really fun to see those teams finally play against each other.
I like it. I can get down with that. Yeah, Amon-Ra St. Brown, his comments of, like you're saying, if it had been a different, which that's always so funny. If it had been a different, sure, man. Like, yeah, let's live in that hypothetical scenario. We got the Super Bowl in Utah. If it had been a different scenario, if we'd beaten Washington, just wait. We would have beat the brakes off of Philly, and Philly wouldn't even be like, come on. I'm
and
sorry.
Micah Parsons got a lot in common. They're like living in hypothetical fairy tale land. And
it's Micah Parsons' comment
if
after
the score. If you just disregard the scoreboard, I played great. It's just
what
like,
are we doing here? What do we do if the scoreboard's not? I mean, what are we playing for? Honestly, at that point, yeah, I love it though. So yeah, it would also do, going back to the Tampa one. I think it would do wonders for Jalen's confidence, Jalen Hurts' confidence, because it's 1-4, I think, against Todd Bowles in his career. So, get one of those early. It's just a little bit extra, especially a new offensive coordinator of Kevin Patullo, and the offense can be firing all cylinders. Now, again, we can remember that Jalen did not have a whole lot of weapons when they played in Tampa. So I totally understand. I'm sure we're going to get comments in this video. We do understand that. But all things considered, weapons or not, Tampa has been one of the teams, if not the team, to give the most trouble to the Eagles. So, yeah, I would absolutely love to see them win for that. I will say, and I mentioned this one earlier here in the video, but I will mention it again, the Packers at Lambeau Field, 99.9% chance that I'm going to that one. The fact that they're complaining about the tush push, the pettiness in me hopes that it does not get banned, and even if it does get banned, maybe just line up for it and then like call timeout so you don't get the penalty. Just like that's something Sirianni would for sure do if it's in the right mode. Like if the Eagles are up, late game situation, short yardage, like let's go ahead, let's run it. Let's go ahead and do it.
Don't even gotta waste timeout. I think it would obviously get penalized if you ran the play. So just line up in the formation and then just either pass out of it or motion them in like pre-snap, just motion into a regular formation just to like you said, troll them and just do the ultimate kind of Nick Sirianni, like, haha, you're an idiot. Like you're soft. Just kind of call them out without calling them out. I think it would be the best. I think I mentioned it doing so before. It would be hilarious, but I hope they actually do it because like I said, I think it is going to be unfortunately banned or the rule's going to change to ban it or whatever. But yeah, that would be hilarious to see. And it would be even better if you were there in person to see it as well.
Yes, and if I am, of course, I'll be filming and posting and trolling and everything else, and probably yelling at. Well, I don't know if Mark Murphy gets down on the sideline. If he does, I'll certainly. But Matt LaFleur, so we'll see. But as far as record predictions, because there's all sorts of games, so and feel free to let us know too your favorite game to see. If you're going to games, let us know in the comments what you're most interested in. But record prediction for the Eagles, the official, the one that you can't ever change. No, I'm just kidding. It's. I mean, look, we're middle of May, so lots of things could change between it. But as of right now, the schedule release, record predictions, because everybody's doing it. What are you going with?
So my totally 100% accurate record prediction is that the Eagles are going to go 12-5. So
okay.
I have them losing to the Vikings in Minnesota, the Packers in Green Bay. So sorry, because if you do go to that game,
dang it,
I have them losing that one. I have them losing to Detroit at home, and then losing at Dallas and at Washington, just because I feel like both teams are very talented. I feel like if they are both fully healthy, that the Eagles would probably just split with them. So I figured it made the most sense just to choose the away games instead of choosing the home games. But those are the 5 losses that I have them having. I know 3 of them into the NFC North, so that's kind of tough to see. But I just think those teams are really talented. They obviously won a ton of games last season. And I think the Eagles are going to have some bumps in the road. I don't think they're going to go. I mean, they were pretty lucky as far as injuries go and stuff like that last season, and turnover luck, things like that kind of flipped around in their favor. So if some of that stuff kind of evens out, especially given a tougher schedule, I could see them stumbling a couple of times and getting 5 losses.
Okay. Yeah, not a lot of confidence in the NFC North though. That's surprising there. I mean,
you could even swap 2 of those out for, say, losing to the Chiefs and losing to the Bills, and I feel like people would be like, a little bit more reasonable. So
that's fair. That's fair. I was just say, Detroit, they're no slouch. They play tough under Dan Campbell, but they're losing both coordinators. So I'm kind of like, it's a decent. We felt the brunt of that. Now it can be a good thing, can be a bad thing. Like lose them for a bad reason or a good reason, however you want to view it, after the Super Bowl for us and Jonathan Gannon and Shane Steichen, versus needing to move on from coordinators and Sean Desai and Brian Johnson. So, but I've just, that feels like a significant loss there. And then Minnesota, I mean, yeah, I don't know. We'll see. Like JJ McCarthy could be better than Sam Darnold. That could be an improvement. Their offense could improve. They do have good on both the O-line and D-line for the most part. So, I don't know. That's an NFC North. That's interesting. I've got 13-4. I'm going to go with that prediction. I wrestle with 13-4, 12-5. So I'm about there with you. The losses for me, though, are Tampa, unfortunately. That's one of the teams that has the number. Dallas, in Dallas, I know that people are going to be like, oh my gosh, that's probably one of the biggest ones that we'll get in the comment section, which is totally understandable. But what is it, 9 of the last 11, 9 of the last 12 years, something like that they've split the season. So it's just kind of like, look, you win one, you lose one. That's usually what happens with Dallas. And then Buffalo, December, it's going to be 17 feet of snow. So
it's probably going to move to like a Tuesday night because of some crazy snowstorm.
Probably will. And then I actually have one of the Commanders. I say week 18. But I'm saying that because I'm believing that at that point it doesn't matter. So week 18, they're playing some backups, and oh well. But I would say just one of the Commanders' games, maybe they lose that. So those are the 4.
A little Tanner McKee, Kyle McCord action is what you're calling week 18?
Could be. Hey, if Tanner's playing, then maybe I shouldn't pick that, right? Like, they might beat the Commanders by 20.
Might be looking at 14-3 then. Instead.
I'm telling you, look out now. You run the table, go 14-3 with this schedule. Everybody just might as well submit.
To be completely honest, I was going to go 11-6 at first with them also losing to the Chiefs. But I thought people would go crazy saying, like, we just smoked them in the Super Bowl. How are we going to lose? So I kind of just, like I said, you can kind of swap any of those 5 losses that I have with other tougher teams. Maybe they lose to a team like the Chargers that can kind of match their physicality, or I don't know, things can get weird against other teams. You never know, maybe the Raiders are playing out of their mind. Maybe they're this year's Commanders. You never know. Like I said, it's so hard to kind of predict how things go. So I thought that was kind of the safer bet based on last season's success for a lot of these teams. But I know a lot of things change year to year. So 12-5, you can argue which teams are they're losing to and whatnot. But I feel like right around there is a comfortable spot for their record.
Yeah. If the guys stay healthy, I think you would say this, I would say this, most everyone's. If the Eagles are healthy, there's not a better team on paper, but that's the difficulty. You start playing with injuries, and then the schedule, how it shakes out. Some of the times you're getting the rest, like you mentioned earlier, but then some of those games you're coming off the short rest, or I don't know if it's necessarily the Lions this year, but the Lions teams after playing Detroit were 6-11, I think the record, because it was just the physicality, or that was the speculation anyway. But the physicality you take with Detroit is like, all right, next week, a little bit of letdown because you're like, man, we're just exhausted from playing that team. So you never exactly know how it plays out. But I think the one that I'm most disappointed in is the Packers one, obviously, because I'm going to be going to that one, and you predict us to lose. That's coming off of a bye week too. That's a surprising one.
Yeah, I'm sorry about that. I just think I've kind of said it all last season. I thought the Packers were really, really good, and I thought they were a lot better than people kind of gave them credit for. So I think year 2 of Halfley's defense, I think his defense showed a lot of promise. They obviously added some players this offseason as well. I'm just a bit higher on the Packers than everybody else. I know Jordan Love doesn't have a ton of lovers, I guess you could say. But I mean, I'm one of his supporters. I think he's pretty good. I don't know if it's his supporter, but I think he's a better quarterback than he's given credit for. So I think maybe that's why I'm leaning towards it. But I don't know. I also think, just being like unbiased, looking at the Eagles, they're going to be betting a lot, especially on defense, on just guys kind of banking on younger guys again like they did last year. And I don't know if they got really lucky, or I guess I don't know if you want to call it luck or whatever it is, but how well Quinyon Mitchell and Cooper DeJean and Nolan Smith played in bigger roles, whereas now they're relying on guys like Sidney Brown potentially, or Drew Mukuba and Keely Ringo at outside cornerback. Like, there's no guarantee that these guys are going to play at the same level that the guys that they're replacing played at. So, I mean, it's going to be tough to see. I mean, hopefully they play well, but replacing Darius Slay, CJ Gardner-Johnson is a tall task, and I'm excited to see how they play, but I also don't think it's a guarantee that they're going to play at that level or better. So if there is a drop-off at those positions, which can be easily exploited by a lot of these great offensive coordinators and play callers that they play against. So I just think that's going to be an interesting thing to kind of watch throughout the season.
Big shoes to fill. That's for sure. And hey, Green Bay, they've got their number one receiver still. Just make note of that. Jaden Reed, he is still the number one receiver.
Can I rant about that just a little bit real quick?
I
got so upset
for that
because that report came out from Adam Schefter where it's like the Green Bay Packers had to make it clear to Jaden Reed that he's still their top receiver. I'm like, this guy has 2 years in the NFL, hasn't gotten more than I think 900 yards in a single season. They drafted a receiver in the first round. Obviously, they think they need to get better at the position, and then like they have to come to you and tell you that you're still what the audacity. I mean, people want to talk about like AJ Brown being a diva.
This is not like to an AJ Brown or Justin Jefferson and be like, whoa, hang on, man. Like, this is you. You're right. It's Jaden Reed. And I saw the tweet and then I saw your responses to it. And I was also going back, you're like, is that legit? Is that for real? Like, they had to actually go and, calm him down?
It was a fake tweet at first. And like, people replied, I guess because I covered the Eagles, that people were just like, oh, are they going to trade for him? Like, they thought I was talking like more in that regard, but that had nothing to do with it. It was more so just like, I can't believe that was like a report that came out. Like, I don't think Jaden Reed is, granted, he played a hell of a game against the Eagles in particular to start the year, but like, he's not that caliber of a receiver yet. Like, you don't need to be guaranteed anything. Like, just put your head down and work and then figure out the rest. Like, that, to me, that was crazy. That kind of just got me upset, as you can tell. So thank you for letting me rant about that.
Absolutely. That's actually why I brought it up, because I knew that it was a sore spot.
You knew it.
So I was just teeing you up for it. Yes, Green Bay has a lot of wide receiver twos. We'll say that. Eventually, hey, Matthew Golden, maybe, but at the moment,
that could be another rant. His jersey number.
But yeah,
I mean, what are we doing here?
I don't know. There's been some of those that you're like, it doesn't make any sense.
22, right? I think he chose. Like,
yeah, that was. He's got to be waiting to.
No.
Somebody to
Nope.
No, I did. What are you doing 22? I'm sorry.
He just wants to be a bust, I guess. I don't know.
Well,
and you could fast forward to this like a year from now when he like leaves the Packers with 1,500 receiving yards and
freezing cold take
but
next
22
to the
on a
Saquon
receiver
Barkley
is disgusting.
0%.
You can never tell me that's a good enough jersey.
Oh, it's hideous. Yeah, it is hideous. It's like one of the end of the roster rookies that you would give. So I don't know. But speaking of, as we're gonna move on, keep it with the Eagles. People are like, what are we doing? Why are we talking to the Packers so much?
Sorry.
The Eagles did have a couple rookies that got signed elsewhere. So got a few guys that maybe people have been keeping tabs on, or we brought up in past instances from rookie minicamp. Quick update on those, and for people curious on those names.
So the biggest one that I think like most people that if they paid attention to the NFL draft, when this guy went undrafted and then like didn't even land a contract right away, he had to go to 2 different camps, and that's Kamon Rucker from North Carolina, edge rusher. He was with the Eagles, but it seemed like the Eagles are a little too deep on the edge right now. They have 7 legitimate guys that could make a push for a roster spot, not counting 1 or 2 other guys that could be there as well. So like I just think it was a numbers game in Philadelphia, even if he did show something in rookie minicamp. They just don't have the roster spots or the need at the position to add anybody. And he ended up, I believe, attending rookie minicamp for the Ravens and signing a deal with them. So he's on their 90-man roster now. Drake Dabney is one of the tight ends that the Eagles brought in during their rookie minicamp. They could have added somebody there, but they didn't. He ended up going to the Titans rookie minicamp and signing a deal with them there. And then Kai Kroger, who was the punter that you covered in one of your videos, kind of like known for his trick plays and things like that, but things didn't work out with the Eagles. He ended up signing a deal with the Jets. So it is interesting to kind of see these guys land somewhere else on our actual roster and not just because the way the Eagles did it, they went with that first weekend of options as far as the rookie minicamp. So that allowed guys that didn't pan out and sign with Philadelphia, they were able to latch on with another team that following weekend and try and latch on somewhere else. So clearly those 3 guys took advantage of those opportunities and found a home elsewhere in the NFL.
Good for them. I was curious if we get a punter/quarterback, and Kai Kroger run some of those trick plays, but it's not to be. Might see him in preseason, assuming he's still with the Jets for that point. So August 22nd is the Jets game, the final preseason game. So long ways to go, but let us know your thoughts. All this, takeaways, score predictions, record predictions, I should say, areas that you agree, disagree. Appreciate you guys. Make sure to like and subscribe. The giveaway for the Eagles-Cowboys tickets, like I mentioned on this video, all you got to do is hit the like button, make sure you're subbed, comment your record prediction, be doing that, spinning for it probably on the next live stream, so keep an eye out for that, Tuesday night live stream. And also, once again, one more time, shout out to the Eagles Autism Foundation. Thank you for the partnership, the support. We are supporting you. Scan the QR code if you want to donate, support in any way, share out the links. There's a link down in the description. And Anthony, a blast as always. And we'll see you on Saturday. I mean, depending on when people are watching this. But if you see guys that look like us, it probably is.
Yes, please say hi. It's obviously we mentioned it's a great cause. So if you see us, definitely say hi, and we'll be excited to talk. And obviously, like I said, great event. Looking forward to it. And thank you for having me on as always.
There we go. Awesome. We'll see you guys. Go Birds.